Our top story on Upside today is from Bangalore, which was actually burnt today after a number of apolitical Kannada organizations called for a burnt in the city to protest against the rising incidents of crime against women. Remember, a 6-year-old class 1 student was raped inside a Bangalore school, following which there were widespread protests, and the school itself was closed for many days. In fact, it reopened only on Monday and Wednesday for different classes, and now different security steps have been taken inside that Bangalore school. Ratnika Sharma spoke to Bangaloreans on what was a forced holiday for many in the city.
I'm standing here in Brigade Road, the heart of Bangalore. An otherwise bustling street seems to be deserted today because of the 12-hour Bandh in Bangalore. If I may ask you, do you support the Bandh?
Not really, except the fact that it's a kind of vacation in between the week. Otherwise, I don't see any reason to support this Bandh, because there have been rape cases throughout India for ages and for years. So I don't think Bandh is really a very good way to protest against this, because you see everything is normal except the roads being a bit less congested. That's it. So basically we are not even moved by the actual objective of the Bandh. So nobody cares. It's just a Bandh, it's just a vacation for everybody.
Do you think Bandh is the best way to protest?
No, I don't think Bandh is the best way to protest. There should be concrete transactions, concrete actions has to be there. That's what I believe, that probably the law and order has to be more stringent, and there should be some other ways, avenues for the men to not to indulge such activities. And the law has to be very severe, and evidences for that, and there should be open communication for the parents, and system has to be like that. That's what I believe.
So for Bangaloreans here, especially youngsters, while Bandh could be a good way to protest, it definitely also means an opportunity for vacation. Ratnika Sharma in Bangalore for Headlines Today.
Right, Mohandas Pai joins me now from Bangalore. Mr. Pai, you have been closely following whatever has been happening in Bangalore for the last 2 weeks. Now this Bandh, which has been called by different Kannada organizations, who really benefits from it? Doesn't it seem to you as mere tokenism?
I think it's just being called by some people to make a point for themselves and to tell everybody that they still have the capacity to bring the city to a standstill and to hurt the sentiments of people. I'm very happy that the Bangalorean has come out in full force. The Bandh is not a success, traffic is flowing freely, and people are working. Bandhs are an antiquated way of protesting to demonstrate political strength of certain political parties, an infringement upon the rights of citizens, and overall it shows the state to be impotent in enforcing the rule of law. How can some people shut the city and prevent me from going to work or doing what I want on a day which is not a holiday under the Negotiable Instruments Act? The state has to protect me, and the state is disclaiming its protection. They're telling people, oh, we're going to shut down buses because there's violence. Then, I mean, this is the kind of governments that we have today. So I think the only solution to this is citizens should ignore it, come out in large numbers and show all these organizers that Bandhs are no longer a way of protest.
Right, stay on with us, Mr. Pai. Rohini Swami, our Deputy Editor South, also joins me from Bangalore. Rohini, you heard Mr. Pai there saying that civilians, people of Bangalore should have gone out and worked today, yet there was 20% less attendance in government offices in Bangalore. There has also been a lot of online protest. So is that okay? That online protest is okay, offline perhaps is not so okay?
Well, that's also a point that people could have showed the fact that they do care that there are rising number of cases, rape cases that are happening, that we should stand up and say that we need security. But at the same time, this almost looked like mere tokenism, where people decide to stay indoors thinking like how my colleague Ratnika has been finding out from people saying it's another holiday. That's not the whole idea. The idea, that is why it looks like tokenism, because the fact remains that if you need to make a point, it should be made in multiple ways. People stand up to it. People could have continued to go to work, but in their own small way could have made a change in their environment.
Right.
And very clearly, like online and offline, online where people are making a lot of petitions, but offline also they could have done a lot more in terms of going to the offices and trying to make that awareness amongst people about security of children and women in their environment.
Rohini, interestingly, the political parties stayed away from this Bandh. At least that's the impression that we have outside of Bangalore and Karnataka, that it was entirely an apolitical Bandh which was called in Bangalore today. Any reason why they chose to stay away? Obviously, they are also being equally agitated about whatever has been happening in Bangalore and different other parts of Karnataka.
Well, in a way, yes, because we've seen how political parties have tried to politicize this whole issue in their own way. We've seen how marches have been taken out by the BJP, by the Congress in their own way. But this is how Kannada organizations said they want to show, and actually, like Mr. Pai was just saying, they wanted to show their existence to the people, that they continue to they exist in Bangalore, in Karnataka, and this is just their way of doing it. This is more than apolitical. These are organizations who have no political lineage, but only a Kannada organizations who support Kannada culture and Kannada activism. In a way, they wanted to make their point. They have made their point, and beyond this, there is nothing more to say.
Right. Mr. Pai, what would you say to all those people who did not go to offices today? Many schools and offices were in fact shut. People chose to stay indoors today in Bangalore.
Yeah, because people are scared. People don't trust the government anymore. The government has to enforce law and order. The government has to protect the life, liberty and property of citizens. And the governments all over India are becoming impotent. They can't do it. And they don't want to do it. Politically, they don't want to do it. They want to scare the citizens to show political power. And I think it's totally wrong. Any government which does not safeguard the life, liberty and property of a citizen and enforce the rule of law is not fit to govern. And I think it's time that all citizens stood up and said it unequivocally to any government.
Right. Mr. Mohandas Pai, strong words there. Thanks a lot for joining us on Up South on Headlines today. Rohini Swamy, stay on with us. In fact, we have another development from Bangalore where the city police seems to have bungled yet again in the case of Mustafa, the skating instructor who was arrested 2 weeks ago as the first suspect, the first accused in the rape case of the 6-year-old Bangalore school student. In fact, now the Bangalore police says that it will not book Mustafa under the POCSO Act because the Act came into existence in 2012 and the time of the offence for which he has been booked was committed at the Dean's Academy in 2011. Police says only section 354 of the IPC can be invoked on Mustafa, an offence that is bailable. This is what the police officer told Rohini Swamy.
The FIR was under POCSO Act, but during the investigation it has come that the date of offence, that is before 2012. So in that case, POCSO Act won't be applicable and the law is not retrospective. So now we have given an application to the court to change the section as to 354, that is outraging the modesty of women, and 509, that is any act or any gesture which is aimed at outraging the modesty of women. So these two sections are there and these sections are bailable.
Rohini, this obviously means that the skating instructor Mustafa will be out pretty soon. Now, what does his family plan to do? Do they plan to sue the Bangalore police for the loss to his reputation and image?
Well, the kind of background that Mustafa comes, let me let you know that he comes from a very impoverished background, for largely also the family that they live in. He's the sole bread winner. His wife, he has also a 5-year-old child. They do not have too much to look forward to. They could not even afford a lawyer. And that's the kind of situation. What they say is, well, the fact that he was arrested, he was shown as a prime accused first, then the Bangalore police has a U-turn and say, no, he's not the prime suspect anymore. He was only arrested on suspicion. His name, and as an individual, he's completely been, there's absolute defamation against his name. And what is more important here is the fact that Mustafa may not have a life after this. Wherever he goes for a job, he may not find a job. But also another point. Dean's Academy, where he was working earlier, he was asked to leave for gross misconduct. The police say they have taken up the case suo moto and have filed an FIR against him. Now they're saying not POCSO, but under the IPC. That's bailable. But the question is, how can if you make so many mistakes, the police make so many mistakes, the future of somebody is at stake, and they cannot afford to do that.
Right. Rohini, also another point, the other day the former ADGP of Karnataka Police, Gopal Hosu, told us here on Up South that the public pressure may have got to the Bangalore police, that they may have been under intense public and media scrutiny, that they had to crack this case at the earliest. Does this also show the entire civil society, especially those in the online world who are quick to condemn Mustafa and hanging from the nearest tree, as some kind of irresponsible kind of a reaction to the entire development of his arrest?
Well, you've seen how a lot of senior police officers who have been in the forces and also have retired call this whole way of handling this particular case a knee-jerk reaction. political pressure under which the police buckled. We have had former ADGP Mr. Gopal Hosu saying very clearly that they were under pressure to show results. That is why they showed the first arrest. They were under tremendous pressure again, and that's why they showed 2 other arrests. But they seem to be bungling up, and they need to take it slowly because this is a sensitive issue. It's an issue to do with children. It's an issue to do with society, and they need to take care of it slowly. They have to investigate in a proper manner, which is not being done. But this we have seen how not 1 but 2 U-turns by the Bangalore police. Obviously, they're buckling under pressure, but they need to stand up and now work in a way and bring this to a closure and bring justice to the people who have been affected.
Right, very important to bring this case to a closure. Thanks a lot, Rohini Swamy, for bringing us all those details from Bangalore in this very, very high profile and important case. News now from Tamil Nadu, where the DMK is very angry and upset at the manner in which they are constantly being evicted out of the Tamil Nadu Assembly. In fact, for the 4th time in a row, starting 7 p.m, that is another 20 minutes. They are also conducting public meetings all over Tamil Nadu, condemning what they call is the undemocratic functioning of the Tamil Nadu Assembly. Joining me now is my colleague Priyamvada from Chennai. Priyamvada, what is the message that the DMK wants to send out through these kind of protests all over Tamil Nadu?
DMK wants to tell people that the assembly session is functioning in a very undemocratic way, because this is almost the 4th time that they are being eliminated from attending the assembly session. We know that this time around they were evicted from the assembly for 4 times, and as per the rules, if they are evicted for 4 times, obviously they will be eliminated and they cannot attend the assembly session. So DMK is basically saying they are not able to voice their views, they are not able to tell what they want, they are not able to function as an effective opposition, is what DMK is trying to tell. They have held meetings like this before, but again this time they have taken it in a bigger manner, because we know that 2016 assembly elections are it's just round the corner. So obviously they want to make it, they want to take up this issue in a really, really big way. They have expanded this protest to all the districts across the state.
Priyamvada, also interestingly, Jayalalitha sent yet another criminal defamation case against Stalin yesterday. One of the many that she has sent out, and I believe it's a second against Stalin. What is the DMK's response likely to be to something like this?
Well, this is the 8th defamation case that Stalin is facing from Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha. He has 7 other defamation cases in various courts here in Tamil Nadu. But it's only a criminal defamation. We know for a fact that criminal defamation, hardly conviction happens. At least in Tamil Nadu, we have seen only 1 or 2 convictions that have happened. So he very well knows that conviction cannot happen in this case. So he will just be going to the court, and he will just keep giving his side of the arguments. But on the other hand, he is also politicizing the issue. He will go out to the people and say that everything is undemocratic. There is no freedom of expression. Opposition parties are not able to express their views in a free manner. So that is what the entire issue he will want to politicize, especially in election campaigns and also various rallies like these that's happening now. He will want to talk about it. This rally is going to be really huge, where former Chief Minister Karunanidhi, Stalin, all of them are going to be participating.
Right. Thanks a lot, Priyamvada. So a full-blown political drama being played out in the political theatre of Tamil Nadu. Thanks a lot for joining us there. Now, news from Hyderabad, a story which should actually concern all of us as citizens of this country. Now, normally a liquor shop cannot be opened near a residential area, near a place of worship, near a hospital or a school. But that's precisely what has happened in the heart of Hyderabad. Pratibha Raman has the details.
Mohan Hemadi, a resident of Banjara Hills in Hyderabad since 2002, is not in high spirits anymore, thanks to the liquor store that opened adjacent to his residence in the first week of July this year.
We are senior citizens. Myself, I am nearing 78, my wife is 70, and we are just alone here. He is also a senior citizen. He is on the other side of that. And they have opened a permit room, which I feel is not right in a residential locality.
There are 90 other residents in the locality who share Hemadi's anger at the store's presence in the neighborhood.
We're really feeling very embarrassed and awkward feeling. They're passing comments on me. We are like young girls and women, and all the ladies, they are not able to walk.
What is surprising is that the liquor shop has come up within 100 meters of a school and a place of worship. But listen to why the owner of the liquor shop thinks it does not matter.
The school, if it is an authorized school from the government, these people they will not allow, firstly. The temple, if it is an authorized temple from endowments, these people they are not authorized. They will not give the wine shop permission. And next, we won't require NOC from the neighbors if it is a commercial road. In 2007, this road is a commercial road. It's on a government geo.
Complaints to the excise department have had no effect.
It has been verified properly. It has been doubly assured that whatever is there, that premises is in according with the rules. Okay, there will not be any problem.
In fact, the excise officials say that even if it is a residential area, there is no need for a no objection certificate from the residents of the locality to set up a liquor store. Clearly, the revenue from the sale of liquor is all that matters to the government. Pratibha Raman, Hyderabad, Headlines Today.
Now, do you want to buy the distribution rights of the next Ram Gopal film? In fact, he is making a Telugu film starring Telugu actor Manchu Vishnu. And what he has done is that the online auction of distribution rights with the base price mentioned for each center will be conducted from the August 1st to August 7. And prospective buyers can buy the film's trailer on YouTube to assess it. And whatever money the movie collects will go to the buyer. In fact, joining me now is producer-director Ram Gopal Verma. Mr. Verma, thanks a lot for joining us on Up South on Headlines Today. Now, should we see this as yet another gimmick from the Ram Gopal Verma factory? What does it essentially entail?
See, first of all, we have to define the word gimmick. It is just a model of business which we've been working on since a long time, how to crack it. Like if any product is put out there in the market, anyone can see on a shelf and decide for himself whether it's worth that price or not, or what price he wants to pay. And if suppose there are only limited options to buy, and some people will outbid each other. So it's a question of who likes the trailer or what. So one is not forcing someone. They're making up their mind by watching the trailer or seeing the people in the film or various other reasons, or their sensibilities or whatever. So instead of having just 2 or 3 buyers in an area, we are just expanding the base to maybe 20,000-30,000 buyers. And I think that will benefit the whole industry. And since films are such an integral part of people, so I might not know, someone might not know construction business or steel business, but everybody knows more or less film business because of the glamour attached to it. So I thought to involve all the people into the business will be a nice idea.
Mr. Verma, your critics will say that you are doing this because your usual distributors will be worried about actually buying your films because they haven't done too well in recent times.
See, the point is, I mean, whatever they say, eventually I've been making films for 25 years and I've been hearing these criticisms, but that does not solve. The same thing will be applying to even the so-called bidder, because he probably will think more than the distributor because coming for the first time, and you will have a certain understanding, you will study that and do it. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Verma, you have been a trendsetter in many ways, whether it is in the way you direct your films or the way your camera work works in your films. Would you say that many people in Bollywood or in the Telugu film industry will actually follow suit?
See, the point of anybody following suit for anything for that matter, not only this, is about its success. Because people follow success because they don't think so much about anything, because they are comfortable in a pattern, they're comfortable in in a working model or in a model which is already in operation, I would say, so that no one wants to think beyond it or out of the box. So whenever someone takes that step, obviously it will only work for the others if it works, I mean, for the intent of what it is. But having said that, the point is eventually each of them is a separate product. It might work for one product, maybe not for the other, maybe very well for one, maybe not so well for another. But yes, but as long as a business model comes into force, I would like to believe it will stay. How fast it will grow, how many people adapt, how long they will take to adapt it is only question.
Right, Ram Gopal Verma, always a trendsetter. We wish you all the best and hope that many people will actually buy your films online. That's it then on Up South this Thursday evening. News and updates will continue on Headlines Today.